History is not just a collection of dates and battles. It is a complex web of money, energy, and shifting power. Have you ever wondered how the world moved from horse-drawn carriages to global industrial empires in just one century? Today, we examine the Great Transformation, the era between 1815 and 1914 that laid the foundations of our modern world. This is the story of how economic giants were born, how brilliant diplomats tried to stop the inevitable, and how a doomsday machine was slowly built. In the history of civilization, few events have had as striking an impact as the French and Industrial Revolutions. These two forces acted like twin engines, driving humanity into an entirely new reality of mass production and political rights. The French Revolutionary Wars and the subsequent Napoleonic Wars are defined by some historians as the true Second World War. Indeed, the parties to this inexhaustible series of wars fought across a vast area covering Europe, parts of Africa, and deep into Asia. Following the definitive defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte and France, the Congress of Vienna in 1815 would finally conclude this long period of chaos. The Congress resulted in a fair peace treaty and the establishment of a new international order that sought stability above all else. While the Congress fixed Britain's position as the world's sole superpower, it also accurately determined the relative spheres of influence for other nations. Even an absolute defeated France was allocated a place in the international system befitting a great power, a masterstroke of balance. This Vienna Order was so successful that it prevented a total global conflict for nearly 100 years until the summer of 1914. The architects of this 1815 order were Prince Talleyrand, the first French Prime Minister, and Prince Metternich, the Austrian Foreign Minister. The foundations of modern international diplomacy were laid with the principles of these two legendary yet controversial statesmen. Before the smoke of the French Revolutionary Wars had even cleared, two important economic developments were taking root in the world. The first were the inventions that served as the precursors to the First Industrial Revolution, the birth of the machine age. In Britain, right after the mechanization of agriculture, James Watt's improved steam engines paved the way for industrial production on a scale never seen before. The second major development was the classical economic approach that replaced the old restrictive mercantilist economy. This new trend of thought, pioneered by Adam Smith, was enriched by brilliant economists like David Ricardo and John Stuart Mill. Concepts we take for granted today, the free market, economic growth, and laissez-faire, were defined during this golden age of thought. It is no coincidence that the first industrial revolution emerged specifically in Britain. As an island nation, it didn't need to waste resources on a massive land army, and its geography offered coal reserves near vital waterways. Most importantly, Britain was a world leader in freedom of thought and education, the true building blocks of any economic miracle. This era saw the rise of steam power, the first railways, and forged iron, creating a massive surge in global efficiency. But progress had a price, the birth of two entirely new and often clashing social classes. Millions moved from serfdom to factory labor, while those holding the means of production formed the powerful new bourgeoisie. The first reaction to this new industrial reality would come from the streets, from people who felt left behind by the march of capital. The revolutions of 1830 and 1848, which shook all of Europe, planted the seeds of socialism and social democracy. It was during the fire of the 1848 revolution that Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, followed by his analysis of capital itself. History shows us that these deep economic and social shifts often change the world order far more profoundly than any single war. By the 1870s, the world entered the Second Industrial Revolution, and the rise of two new giants, Germany and the USA, shook the global balance. Until 1871, Germany represented a fragmented geography, often manipulated by its neighbors, France and Austria. The transformation into a political powerhouse occurred under the Iron Chancellor, Otto von Bismarck. The unified Germany Bismarck dreamed of was forged through 3 calculated wars against Denmark, Austria, and finally France. This new German empire was instantly a military and economic titan, stronger than any other power on the European continent. Bismarck, ever the diplomat, then wove a complex web of alliances, like the League of the Three Emperors, to keep his rivals isolated. Because of his mastery, France, once the superpower of Europe, found itself alone and unable to challenge the new German status quo. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States was experiencing a dazzling development fueled by its rapid expansion. Through the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the U.S. seized territories equivalent to Western Europe, including the resource-rich Texas and California. Yet managing such a vast geography proved difficult, leading to a clash between the industrial North and the agrarian, slave-based South. The American Civil War was a brutal turning point, costing more lives than America's losses in World War I and World War II combined. It was the world's first truly industrial war, proving that victory belongs to those with the most factories and the most cannons. After 1871, during the Reconstruction era, the U.S. war machine was successfully pivoted towards building railways and investment goods. By 1871, the United States officially ranked first in the world in terms of GDP, signaling the end of the old European monopoly. In this same era, John D. Rockefeller was building Standard Oil, a trust so powerful it controlled 90% of the American oil market. Britain now faced a strategic dilemma. It was the exporter of its own inventions, which were now being copied and improved by its rivals. This historical parallel is striking. Today, U.S. strategists watch China rise using the same methods Germany and the U.S. used in the 1800s. The imbalances of this era, combined with overproduction, triggered the Long Depression of 1873. This crisis lasted 23 years, driven by speculative railroad investments and the painful shifts caused by new technologies like electricity. As the Second Industrial Revolution matured, the steady hand of Bismarck was lost when he was dismissed by the young Kaiser Wilhelm II in 1990. The new Emperor lacked Bismarck's patience and fine touch, eventually pushing Russia into the arms of France. Bismarck's final prophecy made just before his death was haunting. He predicted Germany would collapse 20 years after his passing. Precisely 20 years later, in 1914, his words came true. Amateur diplomacy and military arrogance turned a local crisis into a global catastrophe. The First World War was not just a failure of politics, it was the inevitable collision of economic forces that had been building for a century. The doomsday machine had finally finished its work, leaving the old world in ruins and paving the way for the 20th century we know today. As we look at the rising tensions and economic shifts of our own time, we must ask, are we repeating the mistakes of 1914? Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. If you found this analysis valuable, please subscribe for more deep dives into the forces that shape our world. Until next time, remember, to understand the future, you must first master the past.